If we look at the cases we have investigated so far, we have seen that serial killers and psychopaths usually show some symptoms in childhood. As children, they actually give some warnings. If the family does not recognize this, it can lead to great atrocities. Of course, families also cause this situation. So weren't there people who committed crimes as children? We will look at that in this video. We will look at those who are involved in murder without having to grow up. Amarjeet Sada. Amarjeet Sada, India's youngest and most notorious child psychopath, was only 8 years old when he felt the desire to take human life and make others suffer. He chose to prey on children because they were easy targets. His first victim was an 8-month-old baby. Sada entered the world of crime by ending the life of his own brother. Born in the village of Mushahar in Bihar, India, the boy had a childhood like other children around him. The area was economically poor, but none of the people around him knew that he would grow up to commit heinous crimes. After Sada killed his own brother, the family told no one. After all, it was their own children who were involved in the crime. Apparently, such incidents were considered normal in the region. Although the incident was not reported to the authorities, some people in the village had heard about it. Soon after, Amarjeet decided to take action again. He wanted to continue what he had enjoyed during the first incident. This time, he ended the life of his maternal uncle's 6-month-old daughter, also a member of the family. Amarjeet seemed to enjoy choosing easily accessible victims and strangling them to death. After this incident, everyone knew what kind of child Amarjeet was, but the people around him kept quiet. They thought that what happened in the family was a family matter. Their silence meant that Amarjeet's killing spree soon spread outside the family. In 2007, a mother had left her 6-month-old daughter at a nursery to go to work. When she returned, she found her child missing. As the news spread, people feared the worst. Knowing what had happened before, all eyes were on Amarjeet. She immediately reported the boy to the police. When questioned, Amarjeet showed no remorse and happily told them how he had strangled the baby. He took the police to a shallow grave where the baby had been buried. He said he quickly covered it with the surrounding grass and went home after it died. Following this confession, Amarjeet was arrested for the murder of Khushbu Devi. Unfortunately, he was never found guilty of these murders because his family had covered up the murders of his first 2 victims. Under interrogation, however, he explained how he had attacked his victims and why he had done so. His answer was shocking. He said he just wanted more biscuits. He showed no remorse to the police. When they asked him about the heinous crimes, he just smiled. Amarjeet had no idea what was right or wrong. It turned out to be a clear case of child psychopathy. A psychoanalyst was called in to analyze Amarjeet's case from a psychological point of view. After analyzing Amarjeet's case, the doctor came to the conclusion that this was a case of a child who was unrepentant and who took an inordinate amount of pleasure in inflicting pain on other people. It was clearly a case of psychopathy. He was formally diagnosed with a behavioral disorder allegedly inherited, which led him to commit violent acts because he had no sense of right and wrong. In the end, Amarjeet was sent to a juvenile prison. He was sentenced to only 3 years because under Indian law, no juvenile can be sentenced to more than 3 years. Due to his mental condition and the threat he posed to society, it was decided that he would be sent to a psychiatric hospital after serving his sentence. Amarjeet Sada's whereabouts are unknown. In 2015, it was learned that he would be released after being in this hospital until the age of 18. It is highly likely that he is currently free. Time will tell if Amarjeet Sada is involved in further crimes. So far, there is no news of any other crime. There was also another debate going on at the time. According to some people, the nature of the crime and the elaborate places where the bodies were kept were suspicious. They didn't want to believe that an 8-year-old could think of such things. According to these people, someone in the Sada family had committed these crimes, but that was an easy theory. Amarjeet had already shown signs of psychopathy during his interrogation. Maybe people were just scared that an 8-year-old boy could be capable of such behavior. Jasmine Richardson. On 23rd April 2006, a boy in Canada went to his neighbor's house to look for his friend. When he knocked on the door and no one answered, he peered into the house through a basement window. Little did he know that he was about to make a terrible discovery. 2 lifeless bodies lay on the basement floor. The boy ran home and told his mother what he had seen. Without wasting any time, his mother believed what her son had told her and called the police. When the detectives arrived on the scene, they realized that the boy was right. They called for backup, thinking they could save someone inside. But Mark and Deborah were already dead. When they entered the house and went upstairs, they found their son, Tyler, dead in his bed. As investigators searched the house, they discovered the family had another child. Jasmine Richardson was not at home. Police believed that Jasmine had been abducted after the family's murder. The forensic investigation revealed the sequence of events. Deborah was killed first. She was stabbed several times. Then Mark, the father with a screwdriver, died. He had apparently tried to defend himself with the screwdriver. After that happened downstairs, it was the younger brother Tyler's turn. He died upstairs after his parents. Our search of Jasmine's bedroom led to a terrible discovery. Jasmine was not a victim of this atrocity. She was the prime suspect. How could a girl of only 12 end up like this? A few months earlier, Jasmine had snuck out with her friends to go to a punk rock concert. There she met a man 11 years her senior, 23-year-old Jeremy Steinke. Jasmine fell in love with him and he introduced her to the punk scene. Despite their age difference, Steinke and Richardson began a relationship. If we look at Jeremy Steinke's past, he had a bad childhood. He was brought up by an alcoholic mother. He was constantly bullied by his friends at school, so he lived on his own and created an identity for himself. At the age of 13, he claimed to be a 300-year-old werewolf. In early April 2006, Mark and Deborah found out about Jasmine and Jeremy's affair. The family rightly did not want their 12-year-old seeing or communicating with a 23-year-old. They forbade them to see each other again. Jasmine began to resent her parents for preventing her from seeing her boyfriend. On 3rd April, she wrote in a blog that she wanted to end her life, and there was more. In email conversations between Jeremy and Jasmine, they wrote that the Richardson family had to disappear for them to live together. The two had made all their plans through the emails they sent to each other. Jasmine told her friends about the plan as well as on the internet. Her friends did not believe her because she was only 12 years old. Jeremy had watched the film Natural Born Killers before the murder and was inspired by it. On 23rd April, he and Jasmine set out to carry out their plan. When the duo were ready, they entered the house and ended the lives of the Richardson family. Of course, they immediately started running. They didn't run for long. The police managed to track them 100 miles from home. On 24th April, the couple were arrested on murder charges. At her trial in 2007, Jasmine Richardson claimed that the conversations were fictitious and that she never intended to carry them out. She pleaded not guilty. The jury found her guilty of first-degree murder on all 3 counts. He was sentenced to the maximum sentence for a minor, 6 years in prison, followed by 4 years of community supervision. Jeremy Steinke was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder at a trial in 2008. 25 years later, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole. While in prison, the two exchanged letters and proposals of marriage. None of these letters showed any sign of remorse or guilt for the murders. Jasmine Richardson was released from prison in 2016 at the age of 22. Her whereabouts are currently unknown. Jeremy is still in prison serving his sentence. Craig Price. Craig Price was a juvenile delinquent during his childhood and teenage years, committing crimes such as burglary, robbery, harassment, drug use, and assault. At one point in his life, he joined a gang of other young offenders and began robbing houses with them. Despite his criminal activities, Price was known in the area as a friendly and happy boy. Price committed his first murder on 27 July 1987 when he was 13 years old. Late at night, he entered the home of his neighbor, 27-year-old Rebecca Spencer, and took a knife from the kitchen. He brutally murdered Rebecca. The brutality of the murder shocked the whole neighborhood, but despite efforts to find Rebecca's killer, the case was inconclusive. There was no evidence in the house. 2 years later, under the influence of LSD, he broke into another house in his neighborhood, owned by the Heaton family, with the intention of robbing it. On entering, he encountered the mother, Joan. Price, 15, panicked and attacked her. Her screams woke her young daughters, Jennifer and Melissa. As in the previous incident, he grabbed a knife from the kitchen and stabbed all 3 members of the family. Price also cut his own hand. This was the most significant piece of evidence found at the scene. Police discovered a link between the murders, which occurred 2 years apart. The FBI was called to the area to investigate the murders. When the FBI investigated, they were certain they were dealing with a serial killer. Investigators concluded that the killer was a local, given the short distance between the 2 crime scenes. But everyone suspected an adult. No one thought a 15-year-old boy could be behind it. On 5 September 1989, 2 detectives saw Price sitting in a park. Price's hand was wrapped. When they saw the situation, they became a little suspicious. When they approached Price and asked him how he had injured his hand, he said he had punched a car window. Realizing that there was no such robbery in the area, the police took Price into custody. During interrogation, he continued to lie, saying that he had cut his hand in some other way. It was then decided to give him a lie detector test. After he failed the test, a search warrant was issued for Price's home, and bloody knives and clothing were found. Price was then re-interviewed about the murders and confessed to them one by one without remorse. Because of his age, Price could not be tried or imprisoned under Rhode Island law. As a result, he was sent to a juvenile detention center called the Rhode Island Training School. He was housed in the Youth Correctional Center, the maximum security wing of the school. Arrested at the age of 16, Price was sentenced to 5 years, meaning he would be released at the age of 21. This outraged the victims' families and the citizens of Rhode Island. While in prison, Price refused to talk about the murders and refused treatment. He was mostly on good behavior at the prison, using his time to complete his high school equivalency diploma and take college courses. Price's good behavior was reportedly rewarded by the prison, and he was allowed to counsel other inmates at the facility and perform minor security duties. Price's special treatment at the prison had led to further public outrage. The Deputy Attorney General, along with the Heaton family, launched a campaign to prevent Price's release. Their efforts attracted the attention of Bill Clinton, the US president at the time. In October 1994, Price was charged with simple assault and extortion after threatening the life of a prison employee. During cross-examination by the prosecution, he threw a tantrum, claiming that everyone was lying to keep him in prison. His angry behavior brought the trial to a swift end. He was eventually sentenced to 15 years imprisonment. In February 1996, Craig Price was involved in a prison fight with another inmate and bit a guard who tried to break up the fight. Price was found guilty of assault and sentenced to a further year in prison. 2 years later, in October 1998, he again assaulted an officer and repeated the same offense 3 more times in February 1999, October 2001, and July 2009. This resulted in a further multi-year sentence. On 4th April 2017, Price was charged with assaulting fellow inmate Joshua Davis with a large homemade knife at the Suwannee Correctional Institution in Florida. On 18 January 2019, he was sentenced to 25 years in prison for this crime. He is currently serving his sentence in prison. Given the crimes this man has committed in prison, it is important that he is not released. If he had been released, his uncontrollable rage could have led to the end of other families. In this video, we have seen murderers who became involved in the world of crime at a young age. See you in another video. Take care of yourselves.